I could never have imagined that my son would put me in front of such a choice, he said. You either obey and do what my wife says or get out. All my life I have done what they wanted, but this time I realized that I would not let it go and they would regret their words. The fork clattered against Violet's plate, slicing through the hum of the chandelier's glow. You're meddling, surely, she spat, her voice sharp as the crystal glass she shoved aside. The dining room smelled of overpriced Cabernet and tension, the table cluttered with half-eaten roast and wilting roses. I sat across from her, my hands folded, my face a mask of calm. Inside, my pulse thrummed. Violet leaned forward, her diamond earrings glinting. You think we owe you forever for your scraps? Her words landed like a slap. I glanced at Alexander, my son, slouched beside her. His eyes stayed glued to his plate, his jaw tight. My boy, who once clung to me, now a stranger in a tailored suit. The air grew heavy, the kind of silence that chokes. I traced the edge of my napkin, feeling the sting of her words. I'd paid their mortgage, hadn't I? Sold my dreams to keep their suburban palace afloat. And now this. Say something, Alex, I said, my voice low, steady. He flinched but didn't look up. Violet smirked, tossing her napkin onto the table like a gauntlet. Oh, he agrees with me. Don't you, darling? Alexander cleared his throat, his voice barely audible. Mom, it's time to step back. Either you do what Violet says or... He hesitated, then forced it out. Or you leave. The room tilted. My son, my blood siding with her. I pressed my lips together, swallowing the ache. Violet's laugh was a blade. What, you thought he'd choose you? His charity case. I stood, my chair scraping the hardwood. My hands didn't tremble, though my heart roared. You're sure, Alex? I asked, locking eyes with him. He looked away, his shame a flicker in the dim light. Violet's voice chased me as I walked to my room. Don't expect an invitation back. My suitcase lay open on the bed, a relic from better days. I packed with precision: underwear, a sweater, a toothbrush. My fingers brushed a framed photograph on the dresser. Alex at 10, grinning, his arm around me. I slipped it into the bag, leaving the jewelry, the dresses, the life I'd built for them. The frame's weight anchored me, a reminder of what was and what I'd lost. Downstairs, Violet's laughter mingled with the clink of glasses. Alex was silent. I zipped the suitcase, the sound final. The front door creaked as I stepped into the night, the air cool against my skin. My old sedan waited in the driveway, its engine coughing to life. I slid inside, the photograph tucked beside me. Violet's voice echoed in my head, but it wasn't her I saw. It was Alex, his eyes avoiding mine. I turned the key, the radio crackling with a mournful jazz tune. My fingers tightened on the wheel, and a spark flickered in my chest. Not defeat, but something sharper. I wasn't done. Not yet. The motel door groaned as I pushed it open, the air thick with the scent of damp carpet and stale cigarettes. A neon sign buzzed outside, casting a sickly glow through the blinds. I dropped my suitcase on the bed, the springs creaking under its weight. The room was a tomb of faded wallpaper and a flickering lamp, but it was mine for now. I didn't need comfort. I needed a plan. I sat at the wobbly desk, the photograph in my hands. Alex's grin stared back, frozen at 10, before the world turned him against me. My thumb traced the frame and memory pulled me under. 20 years ago, I sat at a kitchen table, a stack of bills before me. My pen hovered over a check, Alex's college fund. My art supplies gathered dust in the corner, my dreams of galleries traded for his future. You're my everything, I'd whispered to him then, signing away my chance. The memory stung, but I shoved it aside. I opened a notebook, its pages crisp, and scribbled a single word: Violet. My pen pressed harder than necessary. They think I'm weak, I said aloud, my voice steady in the quiet room. They're wrong. I rummaged through the suitcase, my fingers brushing a crumpled postcard tucked in a side pocket. Mom, you're the best. Love, Alex. His teenage scrawl mocked me. I gripped it, my knuckles whitening, but a smile curled my lips. Not a warm one, a sharp one. I set the postcard beside the photograph, two relics of a life they'd discarded. My phone sat on the desk, its screen dark. I hesitated, then dialed a number I hadn't called in years. It rang twice. I need your help, I said when the line clicked. No names, no explanations. The voice on the other end paused, then agreed. I hung up, my pulse quickening. The pieces were moving. The motel's TV flickered, an ad for Violet's charity fund flashing across the screen. Her face beamed, all teeth and lies. I leaned back, the chair creaking. Financial trouble, Alex had mentioned once, a slip he thought I'd forgotten. I hadn't. I scribbled another note, my handwriting tight, deliberate. I lay on the bed, the ceiling stained with watermarks. The photograph sat on the nightstand, Alex's eyes watching me. This is just the start, I whispered, my voice ablaze in the dark. Sleep could wait. Revenge wouldn't. The library smelled of old books and dust, the kind of quiet that hums with secrets. I slipped inside, my sneakers silent on the worn carpet. Rows of shelves loomed, their shadows pooling under fluorescent lights. I chose a computer in the corner, its keyboard sticky from years of use. My notebook lay open, the word Violet staring up at me. Today I dig deeper. I typed fast, pulling records on Alex's mortgage, Violet's charity fund. Numbers flickered on the screen, debts, late payments, a house teetering on the edge. My pen scratched the page, each figure a brick in my plan. Violet's fund was trickier, its public face polished but its filings sloppy. I smirked. Sloppiness was a crack I could pry open. A shadow fell across the desk. Shirley. The voice was hesitant, familiar. I looked up to find Ellen, a former co-worker from years back, her fingers twisting the strap of her purse. Her eyes darted around as if someone might overhear. Didn't expect to see you here. Research, I said, my tone light but my gaze sharp. You still with Violet's fund? She shifted, her voice dropping. Not anymore. That woman, she's not what she seems. Ellen leaned closer, her breath quick. There's talk. Money moving where it shouldn't. My pulse spiked but I kept my face neutral. Tell me more. Ellen glanced over her shoulder. She borrowed from the fund. Covered it up but people noticed. She straightened, nervous. Don't say I told you. Wouldn't dream of it, I said, my smile ablaze. Ellen scurried off, leaving me with a spark of possibility. I turned back to the screen, pulling up a news article. Violet beamed in a photo, her smile as false as her charity. Local hero saves community, the headline gushed. I snorted, scribbling a note. Hero my ass. Coffee stained the edge of the article when I set my cup down too fast, but I didn't care. The numbers, the whispers, they were weapons. I tucked the notebook into my bag, my movements quick but deliberate. The library's hum faded as I stepped outside, the air crisp. Across the street, a sign for Violet's fund glowed in a storefront window, her face plastered on it. I paused, my fingers brushing the notebook. You'll destroy yourself, Violet, I whispered, the words a promise. The city buzzed around me but my path was clear. Rain tapped the motel window, a steady drumbeat against the flickering lamp. I sat at the desk, my laptop's glow casting shadows on the wall. My notebook lay open, pages crammed with numbers from the library. Alex's debts, Violet's lies. The cursor blinked in an open document, a letter to the bank, each word a shard of glass. Account delinquency, missed payments, foreclosure risk. I typed with precision, my fingers steady despite the storm outside. The photograph of Alex sat beside me, his young smile a ghost. My eyes flicked to a clipped article in my notebook, Violet's face smirking from a charity gala. Memory clawed at me. 2 years ago, her voice had cut through a crowded room. Shirley, darling, don't you ever tire of being irrelevant? She'd said, her sequin dress glinting as guests chuckled. It stood frozen. My cheeks burning, her laughter a whip. Some people are just born to fade, she'd added, sipping champagne. I'd left that night, her words branded into me. I shook off the memory, my jaw tight. You thought I'd forget, I muttered, my voice low in the empty room. I added a final line to the letter. Please investigate promptly, and printed it, the machine's whine slicing the silence. The paper was warm in my hands, the words anonymous but lethal. I sealed the envelope, my movements deliberate, and slipped on my coat. The rain stung my face as I crossed the street, the mailbox a dark silhouette. My boots splashed in puddles, but I didn't falter. The envelope hovered over the slot, a moment of wait. Then it fell, the metal clank a gunshot in the quiet. My lips curved, not quite a smile. The wind tugged at my coat, but I felt anchored, alive. Back in the motel, water dripped from my hair onto the carpet. I sat by the photograph, its frame cool under my fingers. First move made, I whispered, my voice ablaze. I opened the notebook, new plans scrawled in tight script, names, dates, secrets. The rain roared outside, but I was calm. This was only the beginning. Violet's scream echoed through the living room, sharp enough to rattle the chandelier. She stood by the coffee table, the bank's letter trembling in her hands. Foreclosure, she hissed, her voice cracking. The room was a shrine to their excess. Marble floors, velvet curtains, a faint whiff of her floral perfume. But dust clung to the shelves, a hint of neglect. Paper spilled across the table, bills they'd ignored too long. Alexander paced, his tie loose, sweat beading on his brow. You spent it all, Violet. The bags, the trips, did you think money grows on trees? His voice was raw, desperate. He snatched the letter, scanning it again, as if the words might change. Don't you dare. Violet snapped, her eyes blazing. You're the one who couldn't close a deal to save your life. She tore the letter in half, the pieces fluttering to the floor like ash. Her heels clicked as she stormed to the bar cart, knocking over a glass. It shattered, wine pooling red on the rug. Alex grabbed his phone, fumbling to dial the bank. "We'll fix this," he muttered, more to himself than her. The call connected, but the battery died mid-sentence, the screen going black. He hurled the phone at the couch, his hands shaking. How did they even know? We were managing. Violet spun, her face a mask of fury. Managing? We're drowning, you idiot. She grabbed a vase, some overpriced antique, and flung it at the wall. It exploded, shards glinting in the lamplight. I won't lose this house. I won't be humiliated. Alex sank onto the couch, his voice small. Maybe we should have kept Mom around. Don't. Violet cut him off, her tone venomous. She was always a burden. We're better off now. She kicked at the scattered papers, her breath ragged. A neighbor's knock rattled the door, probably the noise, but she ignored it, her eyes wild. Alex stared at the wreckage, the vase's fragments like their crumbling life. How did we get here? He whispered, his voice breaking. The room fell silent, save for Violet's heavy breathing. Outside, the world moved on, but their empire was cracking. The coffee shop hummed with life. Espresso machines hissing, voices overlapping, the air thick with roasted beans. I sat in a corner booth, my laptop open, its screen reflecting my steady gaze. My notebook was tucked beside me, its pages dense with evidence, bank statements, emails, proof of Violet's borrowed funds. Each document was a bullet, and I was loading the gun. A child's drawing slipped from the notebook, a crayon sketch from my grandson years ago. Memory hit hard. I was in my old apartment, toys scattered, my hands sticky from making dinner. Why's Mom always gone, Grandma? He'd asked, his eyes wide. She's working, sweetheart, I'd said, smoothing his hair. I'd picked them up from school, fed them, loved them, while Violet chased her spotlight. My bones ached then, but I never complained. I blinked, shoving the memory down. Your mask's coming off, I muttered, my fingers flying over the keyboard. I drafted emails to local activists, whistleblowers who'd eat Violet's fraud alive. Discrepancies in the charity fund, unauthorized transfers. I attached scans, my sources untraceable. My coffee grew cold, but I didn't care. The waiter nearly spilled a latte on my table, but I waved him off, focused. The final email was ready. My finger hovered over the send key, my breath even. Violet's face flashed in my mind, her smug grin at that gala, her charity ads plastered across town. I pressed send, the soft click a thunderclap in my head. For emails, for recipients, all anonymous. I double-checked my VPN, my tracks covered, then snapped the laptop shut. I slipped the notebook into my bag, the drawing tucked safely inside. Outside, the air was sharp, the city alive. A poster for Violet's upcoming charity gala caught my eye. Her smile plastered on a lamppost. You'll feel it soon, I said, my voice low, my lips curling. My plan was bigger than this, a web tightening around them. I turned down the street, my steps light, the game far from over. Violet's phone buzzed on the mahogany desk, its vibration cutting through the stillness of her office. She snatched it, her manicured nails clicking against the screen. The caller ID read unknown. But the voice, a sharp, accusing activist, slammed her like a fist. We've got questions about your fund, Mrs. Langley. Money's missing. The room, with its gilded frames and lingering scent of her jasmine perfume, felt like a cage. Papers were strewn across the desk, bank notices and donor lists, a mess of their unraveling life. I wasn't there, but I could imagine her face. Pale, eyes wide, lipstick smudged from biting her lip. She screamed into the phone. You have no proof. This is slander. Her voice cracked, a high-pitched wail. Alexander burst in, his shirt half untucked, his hair a mess. What now, Violet? He snapped, his hands clenched. She spun, her eyes blazing. Your fault. If you weren't such a failure, we wouldn't be in this mess. She hurled a pen across the room, its clatter drowned by her shrieks. Alex grabbed a bank letter from the pile, tearing it in half. Your precious funds bleeding us dry, he roared, his face red. You and your fake halo. Violet's phone slipped from her hand, hitting the floor with a crack. The screen spiderwebbed, a mirror of her crumbling control. She sank into a chair, tears streaking her mascara. Alex paced, then stopped, pulling out his phone. I'm calling Mom, he muttered, dialing my number. It rang unanswered, my silence a wall he couldn't breach. He cursed, tossing the phone onto the desk. They're circling us, Violet sobbed, her voice small now. My reputation, it's all I have. Alex ignored her, ripping another paper, a donor contract, its shreds floating like snow. She'd know what to do, he said, almost to himself, mentioning me again. Violet's head snapped up. That woman? She's gone, Alex. Good riddance. He froze, staring at the wreckage. Scattered papers, her broken phone, their broken life. A neighbor's dog barked outside, the only sound in the sudden quiet. We're not getting out of this, are we? He whispered, his voice hollow. The office door creaked as Violet stumbled out, leaving him alone, the weight of their ruin pressing down. The park bench was cold, its iron biting through my coat. Leaves rustled underfoot, carried by a sharp November wind. I held a manila envelope, its edges worn from my grip. Inside were copies of Violet's fraud, bank transfers, forged receipts, enough to bury her at her precious gala tomorrow. A dog barked in the distance and I glanced up, spotting Tom, the journalist, weaving through joggers. His scarf fluttered, his eyes scanning nervously. He sat, keeping a careful distance. This it? He asked, his voice low. I slid the envelope across the bench, my fingers steady. Everything you need, I said. No names. No traces. He nodded, tucking it into his coat. This'll hit hard, he murmured, then stood, vanishing into the crowd. I leaned back, the bench creaking. A child's drawing lay crumpled on the path, a splash of crayon that tugged me back. 30 years ago, I stood in a studio, paint on my hands, a canvas half finished. You could be great, Shirley, my teacher had said, his voice warm. But the test in my pocket, 2 pink lines, changed everything. I'd dropped the brush, my dreams traded for a son I'd raise alone. The smell of turpentine still haunted me. I blinked, the memory fading. My phone buzzed, a reminder of tomorrow's gala. I jotted the time in my notebook, its pages thick with plans. Violet's face flashed in my mind, her smug grin, her lies. You won't escape this, I whispered, my breath clouding in the air. The envelope was gone, but its weight lingered, a point of no return. I stood, my boots crunching leaves. A poster for Violet's gala flapped on a nearby tree, her smile as false as her charity. I touched it, my fingers grazing the paper. The wind howled, but I felt calm, a storm gathering inside me. Tomorrow was coming, and I was ready. I knocked on their door, the sound sharp in the evening chill. The house loomed, its grandeur fading, curtains half drawn, porch light flickering. The air smelled of furniture polish, a vain attempt to mask neglect. Violet opened the door, her eyes narrowing. Shadows clung under her eyes, her blouse wrinkled. You, she spat, her voice a mix of shock and scorn. Crawling back already? I'm here for one thing, I said, my tone even, my eyes locked on hers. The painting. I brushed past her, my boots echoing on the hardwood. The living room was a ghost of itself, shelves half empty, dust coating the mantel. My painting, a small landscape I'd done decades ago, hung crooked on the wall, forgotten. Violet followed, her heels clicking. You think you can just waltz in? Begging for scraps. Her laugh was brittle, a crack in her armor. I ignored her, lifting the painting from its hook. Dust coated my fingers, a faint grit. This is mine, I said, wiping the frame with my sleeve, each stroke deliberate, like erasing their hold on me. She stepped closer, her breath hot. You don't belong here, Shirley. You never did. Her voice trembled, betraying her. I turned, my smile sharp. We'll see who matters tomorrow, I said, my words a needle. Her face froze, confusion flickering in her eyes. She grabbed a glass from a side table, her fingers shaking, and it slipped, shattering on the floor. I didn't flinch. I walked to the door, the painting under my arm. Enjoy your gala, I said, my voice dripping with irony. Violet's mouth opened, but no words came. The door clicked shut behind me. I slid into my car, the painting beside me, its colors vivid even in the dark. The engine sputtered, then caught. Tomorrow it ends, I whispered, my hands steady on the wheel. The streetlights blurred as I drove, the gala's shadow looming. The ballroom glittered, a sea of crystal chandeliers and rustling silk dresses. Violet stood on the stage, her smile tight, the microphone gleaming in her hand. The air smelled of expensive perfume and anticipation, program booklets fanning in the hands of Chicago's elite. I lingered in the shadows near the back, my coat blending with the dim corner, my eyes fixed on her. She didn't see me. No one did. Thank you for this honor, Violet began, her voice syrupy, dripping with rehearsed charm. My fund has lifted so many. Her words faltered as Tom, the journalist, rose from the front row, a sheaf of papers in hand. Mrs. Langley, he called, his voice cutting through the applause. Care to explain $50,000 transferred to your personal account? The room froze. Violet's smile cracked, her knuckles whitening on the microphone. That's absurd, she stammered, her eyes darting. Tom held up a bank statement, his tone relentless. And another $30,000. Forged receipts. Shall I go on? Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Heads turning, program booklets dropping. A woman in pearls gasped. She stole from children? Violet's voice rose shrill. This is a lie. A vicious attack. She lunged for the microphone stand, knocking over the award, a gaudy glass statue. It hit the stage with a crash, shards scattering like her lies. The crowd erupted, some shouting, others storming out. A man in a tuxedo threw his booklet to the floor, his face red. Fraud, he yelled. She backed away, her dress catching on a chair, tearing with a sharp rip. You can't prove this, she screamed, but her voice drowned in the chaos. The microphone squealed, a piercing wail, as she dropped it and fled the stage, her heels clattering. Guests surged toward the exits, their whispers a rising tide of outrage. I stayed still, my breath steady, the photograph of Alex tucked in my pocket. Its weight grounded me. Violet's empire was crumbling, just as I'd planned. The crowd's roar faded as I slipped toward the exit, my lips curling into a faint smile. This isn't over, I whispered, the ballroom's lights fading behind me. The night was young, and my work wasn't done. The house stood gutted, its windows dark, curtains gone. Boxes littered the lawn, spilling clothes and trinkets, Violet's designer bags, Alex's golf clubs, a life unpacked. A moving truck idled nearby, its engine rumbling, the air sharp with the scent of fresh paint from the new owner's renovations. I stood on the sidewalk, my coat buttoned against the morning chill, watching the end of their world. My notebook was back at the motel, its work done. Alex burst from the front door, his face haggard. "I ask you." "Mom," he shouted, spotting me. He stumbled across the grass, his shoes scuffing. "You're here." "Thank God." His voice broke, desperate. "We lost everything, the house, the fund. Help us. Please." I stood still, my gaze cold. "Help you," I said, my tone flat, slicing. "After you chose her?" He flinched, his hands reaching for me. "I was wrong, Mom. I didn't mean it. We're homeless." His fingers grazed my sleeve. But I stepped back, my boots firm on the pavement. "You made your bed, Alex," I said, my voice steady. "Lie in it." He dropped to his knees, his shoulders shaking. "I'm sorry," he sobbed, his hands clawing at the grass. "Forgive me. We'll starve." A neighbor peered from across the street, her phone out, filming the wreckage of his pride. I didn't blink. I reached into my pocket, pulling out the house key, its metal warm from my grip. "This isn't yours anymore," I said, dropping it onto the porch steps. It glinted in the sunlight, a final cut. Alex's sobs grew louder, but I turned, my steps measured. Violet's silhouette flickered in a window, but she didn't come out. She couldn't face me. I reached my car, the engine coughing to life. A man in overalls, the new owner, emerged, clutching a stack of documents, oblivious to the drama. I glanced back once, Alex still on the ground, the truck swallowing their life. "Justice tastes sweet," I whispered, my hands tight on the wheel. The road stretched ahead, and I drove, the past shrinking in the rearview. The coffee shop glowed, its windows warm against the evening chill. I stood behind the counter, pouring espresso, the air rich with the scent of roasted beans and cinnamon. The wooden floor creaked underfoot, polished to a shine, and my painting, the landscape from years ago, hung on the wall, its colors bright under soft lights. Customers chatted, their laughter a gentle hum, the clink of cups a rhythm I'd grown to love. "Surely, this place is magic," said Mrs. Carter, a regular, her eyes crinkling as I slid a latte across the counter. "You've got a gift." I smiled, wiping my hands on my apron. "Just coffee and a little heart," I said, my voice light. She chuckled, leaving a tip in the jar. The bell above the door jingled as more locals filed in, their faces familiar, their stories now part of mine. I moved through the routine, grinding beans, steaming milk, straightening chairs. A child at a corner table scribbled a drawing, her crayons scattered. It tugged at me, a faint echo of my grandson's, but I let it pass, my smile steady. I'd poured my savings into this place, every penny earned from years of sacrifice. It was mine, built from scratch, a dream I'd reclaimed. In a quiet moment, I sat by the window, the shop's hum fading. The painting caught my eye, its rolling hills a piece of the girl I'd been. I touched its frame, my fingers tracing the wood. No pain lingered, only peace. A young woman, a new customer, approached. "You're the soul of this place, surely," she said, her voice earnest. "You inspire us." I nodded, warmth spreading in my chest. "Thank you," I said, my tone soft but firm. The shop filled again, voices rising. I stood, stepping outside as the sun dipped low, painting the sky in gold. The sign above the door, Shirley's Brew, swayed gently, its letters bold. A note on a napkin, left by a customer, fluttered in my pocket. "Thank you for this haven." I looked at the horizon, my breath steady. "I'm home." I whispered the words of vow. The world turned and I was whole. If you like this story, please don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and write in the comments what impressed you the most about this story. Also, we recommend you to listen to our previous story. It is even more shocking. Just click on the box on the left to play it. Thank you for watching.